Aaron Nesmith is a player that every team on the NBA wants. You want a guy like Aaron who will just do whatever he's asked, puts his head down and works. And so I think that's what we love about him. And there's definitely some extra juice for him when he plays Boston. And that's cool to see. Just cool to see him ball.
Came in here last year, trying to find a role for himself, and he's grown upon that role this offseason. He's more effective with the ball. He's shooting the ball well. He plays his heart out. It's what the city wants to see, and it's a $33 million man. So I'm happy for my guy, man, for real.
McConnell's been annoying. Nesmith with a running start. Oh, my goodness! Just destroyed it. Aaron Nesmith.
All right, everybody, we now bring to you reoccurring guest, Mr. Do-It-All for the Indiana Pacers. He will lock up your favorite non-Pacer. He is Aaron Nesmith. Aaron, welcome back.
How we doing? Thank you guys for having me again.
Of course. It's been too long. So the last time that we chatted and we had you on, it was actually before you signed your 3-year extension with the Pacers. How much did that mean to you to see the faith that the Pacers had in you?
It meant the world. And I think you guys saw that with how I played this year. I played with a lot more confidence, I was a lot more comfortable. It's just good knowing that, you have people believing in you and backing you in your abilities.
Started the year off the bench, earned your way back into the starting lineup. This was a really fun run the Pacers had to the Eastern Conference Finals. Talk to me about just the season in general, everything that kind of, not going into detail on everything, but just coming off the bench, becoming a starter, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, what was this year like for you?
It was probably my most fun year of playing basketball in a long time. I tell people all the time, once I got to Indiana, basketball became a lot more fun playing the game once again. And so that's just the brand of basketball that we play, and that's how I felt all year. It was really special just how far we were able to make it, how many people we proved wrong. To play on the stages that we got the opportunity to play on, I would call our season, somewhat of a success, but didn't finish the way we wanted to. And I think that drives me, and it hopefully drives my teammates into getting better and getting back there again next year.
You talked about having fun. Winning is definitely fun, but also talk about this group that you got to play with, because from, our standpoint, this looked like one of the more tight-knit Pacer teams that we've seen in recent years, and it looked like you guys enjoyed playing with each other.
100%, and I credit the front office for putting a team like this together, because it's hard to find very humble guys in the NBA, and I think they did a phenomenal job of finding a collective of a group of guys who genuinely want to see each other's success.
Let's just jump right into the playoffs. You guys go up against the Milwaukee Bucks, a team that you had some chemistry with, or some history with, I guess you could say, in the regular season. And they're without Giannis, but still a hard-fought series. And I think everybody remembers the game when you had that big shot in the corner, that 3, after struggling to really get one to fall. That first series against Milwaukee, what was that like for you? How do you remember that shot that you made there in the corner?
It was a fun series. I'll tell you, that was my first real playoff series. And, being able to play against, Chris Middleton, who's my mentor growing up, that meant a lot to me. To be able to beat him meant a lot to me. And, that shot in the corner, he said I was struggling, and I just, shot it in my rhythm, and, I went in.
Staying on the playoffs, I feel like that Bucks series, it was awesome. It was great. The Pacers were tested when they went down, in game 1. But then in the next round against the Knicks, you guys were tested again, being down 2-0, and even facing elimination later on. But I feel like we don't win that series without the switch of having you guard Jalen Brunson more in that series. What is it that you noticed about Brunson's game that you were able to make things difficult for him?
He's a strong guy. He likes to get into the paint. He likes to use his body to create space. And so I was just trying my best to allow him to not create that space. And when he bumps you in the chest, take the hit and stay with him. He's a phenomenal player. So just try to guard him without fouling.
I want to go back to your relationship with Chris Middleton. I know it was talked about a lot during that series and things like that. But did he give you some advice after you guys took out the Bucks and you guys are playing against Boston and New York in the next couple of rounds? Was he talking to you a little bit, and what did he maybe say if he was?
Nah, he was pissed. The word.
Sticking with Middleton, and what was it like in that game when Halliburton eventually hits that game-winning floater? but Middleton hits those two ridiculous shots that just felt like he was not going to let Milwaukee let that one slip through their hands. I mean, what was that game like, that intensity, the first home playoff game of the year in game 3 for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he hit some tough shots because I think it was he hit a tough three to tie it, and then I hit the three to go up 3, and then he banked another 3 and to tie it again and send it to overtime. So that was quite the game. That was a memorable game for my career. It was great that we could, it was great we were able to pull that game out for game 3, first playoff game in Indy in a long time. To be able to win that one was huge for us and the fans. So it was a special moment, though.
This is probably more of a fan-related type thing, but, fans love a good rivalry. Do you feel like there's a rivalry brewing at all here with Milwaukee or potentially New York?
I see it on the horizon. I could tell a lot of people maybe didn't like the way that we did things, or, like I said, people didn't think we deserved to be there. But us as a group, we believe we deserved to be there. We know we are a close-knit group that are continue to work and continue to get better, and we're going to get back there. So I would say, yeah. And, they could take it as they will, but, we're ready to play basketball whenever.
Walk me through, you eventually tie up the series against the Knicks. You force game 7. Now you're going into the Garden. Winner goes to the conference finals, and that's a tough place to play. But perfect 8 of 8 from the field, 19 points, and the Pacers were historic on that night. You had everything going, and you handled business to be able to beat the Knicks. What was that mentality like of the Pacers going into that game?
Win at all costs. I mean, game 7 at Madison Square Garden is the biggest stage in basketball. I think everybody had the right mindset going into the game as a collective, was to go out, be us, play our game, and win the basketball game, and that's what we did.
Going into Boston, obviously the team that won the championship eventually, a team you're familiar with playing against them or playing for them and then playing against them, obviously, in the Eastern Conference Finals. Losing 4 games, but all those games were super competitive. What's one thing you learned from that series against Boston?
Closing out games. Like you saw, we were winning a lot of those games, like 3 out of 4 of those games. I think we were winning in the fourth quarter. And, we just got to be able to hold those leads. And, that's something that I guess, that comes with experience, and that's something that we've lived through now. And so hopefully next year when we get back and if we're in that situation again, we'll be able to close those out.
I asked Andrew Nemhard this. We had him on the other week. And watching the NBA Finals, I felt personally that the Pacers played Boston better than Dallas played Boston. Do you feel that if you could have gotten past the Celtics, that the Pacers could have won it all against the Mavericks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even if we won game 1 in Boston, the whole series would have been different itself. So
I'm with you.
Unfortunate, but it's something we're gonna have to live with and use as motivation to get back.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like this group of guys for Indiana has that kind of chip on their shoulder to prove people wrong. And we mentioned it a little bit earlier. You said it yourself. People didn't feel like you guys belonged there. We asked Andrew Nemhard about that as well, and he said, I don't really care what people think. But I'm curious, for those that are doubting this Pacers team, you keep hearing about, the Knicks just acquired Mikal Bridges. The Bucks can get Giannis back. Everyone's still not really mentioning the Pacers as a team that could be right back there for the Eastern Conference Finals. How does that motivate you?
You just saying that is motivating. Like all this stuff, adding all these people, moving all these parts, but we got the same team for the most part. Like we're gonna come back with the same group of guys. We're just gonna come back better because we're workers. We want it, and we have everything we need in our locker room, in my opinion. And we're just gonna come out and prove people wrong again. That's all there is to it.
I think the Pacers definitely improved as the season went on defensively, but is there a moment that you could think of where you guys were like, all right, enough's enough? We got to hold ourselves to just a higher standard. Is there something that you could look back on the season and say, that was the moment that we all really came together defensively and maybe gave that extra 10%?
I don't know if I could pinpoint an exact moment in the season. But there was a point in the season where we just pretty much were I mean, the coaching staff got on us a lot about defense. And so I think just as a collective, we just kind of picked it up and realized we need to be better on that side of the ball. But I couldn't tell you like an exact moment.
I do want to talk a little bit about some of the players on this team. Pascal Siakam, you guys bring him in halfway through the season. What was that addition like for you guys? Obviously, we saw what he did in the playoffs, but on a personal level, as well as a basketball level, what was the addition of Pascal Siakam like to the locker room?
It was huge. I mean, he was a great voice in the locker room. He's been there before. He's done what we're trying to accomplish as a team. So anytime that he talks, we listen. And he did a good job of leading the group and interjecting in moments where we needed his voice. And then on the court, he's a great two-way player, and he did what we needed him to do.
Did it feel like there was a little bit of a jolt when, I guess at this time when Siakam came to the Pacers, Halliburton was still a little bit hurt, but did that maybe change the confidence of this group to say, well, we got a two-time All-NBA player in here, two-time All-Star, someone who's got a ring like this. Why can't we take that next step?
I'm going to be honest. I think we always felt that way. And, acquiring Pascal did nothing but help that and bolster our confidence, and then once things really started happening for us, he helped us, handle it the right way because he's been there before,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ascension of Tyrese Halliburton last year was really fun to watch, especially in your guys' in-season tournament run to the championship game there before he got hurt and things like that. But what has Tyrese Halliburton meant to you guys as a team, and just how do you think he's handled the pressure of being a franchise guy and just leading this team to the success they've had already?
I mean, you just said it, like he's a franchise guy. He means everything to us. We go as he goes, and he plays. The reason why we play such a happy, fun, great pace of brand of basketball is because of Tyrese and the way that he plays. So when he's playing at a high level, it just raises everybody else on the team, and that's what makes him so special.
Is there someone on this Pacers team that you feel like maybe doesn't get enough credit, but like absolutely, deserves it? I think outside yourself, because I do think that we could see the difference with you in the lineup and coming off the bench, things like that. But is there maybe a teammate that you could throw some shine to that's like, this guy's a big part of what we're doing, and I don't think we hear about him enough?
You guys saw what Andrew Nembhard was able to do in like those last two Boston games, but I'm a big fan of his. He's a very good player, plays with a great pace, plays his game all the time. I think he's a big-time player for us. Isaiah Jackson, I think he deserves his flowers as well. I'm a big fan of his. He always plays with such great energy, saying we know what you're getting with him. He cares a lot. And he just continues to get better and better.
Another guy that really kind of got thrown into the rotation and maybe didn't expect to play a lot this year is Ben Shepherd. How did he do as a rookie, specifically in the playoffs, with a bigger role than maybe he was expecting to go into the season with?
Man, Shep is the man. He, I think one of our coaches, LP, always kind of messed with him throughout the playoffs and always let him know he was one of like 3 rookies to still be playing in the playoffs. And but Shep has a really good head on his shoulders, and he knows who he is as a player. And that's why he was able to help us so much, just because he's another guy who does the little things at a high level. So, yeah, Shep deserves his flowers as well. He's a big part of the reason why we were able to make it as far as we were.
Sticking on the rookies, take us a little bit behind the scenes. What have you seen from Jarris Walker, maybe, behind closed doors that can get fans really excited about next year?
Jarris is very skilled. Every time we see him play, every time he plays, he's in the gym a lot. He puts the work in. He's a hard worker. He wants to get better. He wants to be that guy. So, the future is bright for Jarris, and I think fans got a lot to be excited about Jarris.
I got to know from your perspective and the other players' perspective, the rookie hazing. What were some things that you guys did to these rookies throughout the year that you can share here on the air?
I stay out the way with that, man. I stay out the way. I didn't enjoy my rookie hazing, so I don't take part in it too much. I let the other guys hazing.
Who usually does the hazing? Is it Miles?
Miles does his fair share, but I'll say it's like James Johnson.
I was thinking.
Tyrese does his fair share, but it's really just bringing food to the plane and that kind of stuff. It's nothing crazy.
Okay.
Sticking on James Johnson. James Johnson didn't start this season with the Pacers. He was brought back specifically. It felt like after that intense game, with Milwaukee, the infamous, ball situation. What was it like for this team to then bring James Johnson back and have that veteran in the locker room, which is kind of a dying breed for most teams?
I mean, it was huge. I tell James all the time, he's probably the best vet I've ever been around. Like, he really cares about his teammates. He wants to see everybody succeed. He pushes confidence in everybody. And he also holds everybody in line and check. And he knows when if you're not playing at your best, performing at your best, he'll let you know about it. So I think James's voice in our locker room was big time. He's been around this league for a long time. He's seen so much. He's another guy. If he talks, guys listen. So he was a big time.
I think one of the fun storylines that we've had Chad Buchanan on, Andrew Nimhard on, they've talked about Benedict Matherin's baking and the baked goods that he made during the playoffs. So I just have to ask you, one, about his baking, and then two, is he a better baker than he is a trash talker?
Nah, he's a pretty good baker, man. He impressed me. I didn't realize that was such a hobby for him to the playoffs. He really did come with like a new pastry every day. It was crazy.
What was one of your favorite things that he made for you?
I think he made like some strawberry shortcake cupcakes, I think, one day for it was like a home game. But yeah, no, he's got some talent in the baking industry for sure.
Okay.
I love how I just keep hearing new different things that he's baking. All of them sound great, and all the reviews sound awesome. So it's making me hungry now because, I haven't ate dinner yet. But, when you look at a Benedict Mathurin and a Jarris Walker as a unit, are you seeing like, hey, these guys weren't, really contributing in the playoffs, but next year around, they're going to be healthy, taking that next step? Does that feel like that next level for the Pacers to be able to get contributions out of both of them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, we didn't have Ben this whole playoff run, and it's obvious we could have used him. He's a phenomenal player, great guy. So going into next year, having Ben back, getting Jarris in the mix of things, like, it's going to do nothing but wonders for our team.
Obi Toppin, a guy you guys brought over last year, had a really nice roll off the bench, even though he started earlier on in the season. What did he mean to your team, and just how important was he during this playoff run?
Obi had a great year. He really hit his stride, right before the playoffs and into the playoffs. Shooting the ball really well, made great reads. I mean, like, he's a very talented player for his size, so I'm also a big Obi fan. I'm just a fan. I mean, we got great players over here.
Yeah.
No, I really do. Is there any part of you guys, because a lot of you guys came from the same draft. I believe it was the 2020 draft, where it's like, you, Obi, Tyrese, Jalen Smith, Forrest Jordan Nwora, like, a lot of guys come from that same draft. Does that, is there any memories you can think of back then that maybe brought you guys a little bit closer?
Unfortunately, like, since it was COVID, we didn't get
COVID year.
No.
Yeah, no, that's true on that. But at least you guys will always share that bond of coming into the league together.
Exactly. Yeah, that's something we definitely missed out on as a class.
Well, we're looking forward to next season. What are some goals that you personally have for yourself? What area of your game do you think you want to improve on this offseason?
I mean, I just want to be a better overall basketball player, but I guess the easiest thing I could point out is, continue to move my feet more, keep my hands back, fouling less. I want to try and make a defensive team, like, that'd be a dream for me. So I would say individually that's the goal, to just get better on that side of the ball while also becoming a better overall offensive player at the same time. And, getting back to the playoffs, to making a deep run, we saw what we could do this year, and I know we could do it again next year. So the goals are high.
From a defensive standpoint, who do you draw inspiration from or maybe watch on film? Is there a player past or even present that, you actively watch?
I wouldn't say, I watch everybody. I would say I learned a lot from Marcus while I was in my Boston days. These days I don't watch too much. I more watch, like, offensive players and tendencies versus, like, other defensive players and what they do. But I would say Marcus was definitely somebody that I was able to put my eyes on a lot during my early years, and kind of stole some stuff from him.
And not a bad guy to steal some stuff from, former defensive player of the year. But speaking of offense, there were some times I feel like you started pulling up that mid-range jumper a little bit more. Is that something you were looking to add to your bag last year? And do you feel more confident in that mid-range shot?
I do. So that's definitely something I'm working on this summer as well, is just getting more comfortable shooting those mid-range jumpers, finding ways, being more creative to get to that, to get to those spots. So that's definitely one thing I'm focusing on this year.
Dating back to your days in college, a great 3-point shooter. There was a small span during this year where I believe that you were number one in the NBA in 3-point percentage. It was like just over 47%. I mean, was there any part of you that was like a little bit like, wow, I'm leading the league? Or is it just like, hey, you know what? I expect to be a really good 3-point shooter in this league?
Definitely more of the second. Like, I know I'm a good shooter. I expected to be at the top of the list. So I was very upset with myself when I dropped at the end of the year. But I'm confident in my abilities. I know I can shoot the ball, and I know I'm going to get right back up there next year. So,
And real
Let's
quick,
talk.
staying on that,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
sorry, Alex, but like, what is it like when shooters go through some of those situations? Because, like you talked about, there were some months where you shooting like 52% from three, and then some other months where it's lower. Like, obviously, you have the ability. Is it just more of like that mental thing? Is it just the next shot's always going in? But we see shooters go through this on a routine basis because everybody's human.
yeah, exactly. Everybody's human. Everybody's going to go through a cold slump. It's a long season. Can't stay hot forever. But try my best to be, to stay as hot as long as I can. But it's really just staying mentally strong, keeping your confidence, knowing that, next shot's going in.
Teams are going to notice you a lot more this year than probably last year, where you maybe were a little bit slept on. Now you guys are going to be a little bit more on people's radar. How do you think that changes the way teams approach you guys when they come into play?
I think that's a great point. Like, yeah, we're not sneaking up on anybody anymore. And I think it might be a learning curve to begin the year, but I also think that we'll be ready for the challenge because we're aware of that. So I don't think it'll be much of a problem.
Everybody in the NBA is extremely talented. This is the best, group of players in the world. But there were some games this year that I felt like the Pacers dropped that nobody really expected them to. You guys played up to your competition many times, beat some great teams. But also, unfortunately, there were some games that I feel like the Pacers fumbled a little bit. What was that like for the team knowing that, hey, maybe, we let one slip away tonight?
Yeah, it's frustrating. I remember one time it was after a game that we dropped, a game that we shouldn't have dropped. And I was talking with Miles, and Miles was pretty upset because we kept losing these games that we were supposed to win, and it would have added maybe like 6, 7 wins to our total, which home court in the playoffs. And I was talking with some of my buddies from home. I think we now understand as a young team how important home court advantage is in the playoffs. It really does make a difference. And so that's something I think going into next year, we will understand the importance of, those games on a random Tuesday night that, we got to win those. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be bad losses every single season, but it's how you bounce back and how many you have and how many you don't have. So I think that's a very important thing and a good learning tool. But I want to talk about the coaching staff a little bit, because this has been a really heavily talked about coaching staff in terms of all the positive things they've done, and I think Rick does a great job of praising his assistants for all the things they've come up with too. But who is your personal assistant that you work with the most, and do you have any stories you'd like to share from how they've helped you grow as a player?
I work with Lloyd Pierce, and I think LP is great just because he doesn't he knows who we are as players, and he wants us to be the best version of ourselves. So he does a really good job of pushing confidence while also, helping us work on what we thrive at and, not shying away from our weaknesses. So he shows us where we're weak at, and he helps us get better there. And that's why I say LP is very special.
There's no way to really prepare for it, but the Pacers played about 100 games last year. It was a much longer season than in years past. Do you feel that kind of maybe caught up with the team a little bit down the stretch of just being like, man, this is the longest season any of us have really been through? And do you feel the Pacers will benefit from that next year, being mentally prepared to play into June?
Yeah, I agree. I would say, yeah. Playing this long into the season was mentally challenging for sure. And I think just that alone, being here before and haven't been hungry to get back, I think it'll just be easier for us next year when we get it to late May and early June.
Hopefully we will see that happen again. It was a lot of fun to follow you guys and watch that run of the Eastern Conference Finals. And hey, let's take it one more round of the finals and have some more fun with this. But now that you've been here for 2 years, are there things you love to do in Indiana?
I mean, I spent a lot of time like in downtown Carmel, just walking around. I'll say I kind of stay to that area the most.
Any like go-to places there in Cromwell you like? Not
I
trying
go
to
to
give you away, but
yeah, there's a calzone spot called Sauce on the Side that I eat a lot, so I go there.
Sorry, who's like the crew that you might hang out with, on the team, outside of games, maybe if it's on a weekend or anything of that sort? Who'd you say is maybe like a go-to friend on the team?
I mean, if we're going out like on the road or whatever, I'd probably say TJ's the dinner guy. So TJ's always trying to do dinner in every city. So he's setting up all the dinner sessions.
yeah, let's stay with TJ. We haven't talked about him very much on this podcast. I mean, just what a season for him, and what he did this year was really fun to watch. Just the type of player and person he is. Can you share some or shed some light on that?
Yeah, TJ's a man. I think TJ's a phenomenal person. Great basketball player. It's hard to find anybody who does what TJ does on a nightly basis. At his size, it's incredible the way he's able to get into the paint, score so consistently, and play as hard as he does every single night. Yeah, I'm big TJ fan.
Did you guys ever find yourself kind of like in awe when he's going on one of those runs where he's just stealing the ball, laying it in, going like hard and getting the people on their feet? Because I feel like there was moments where when McConnell hit a 3 in the playoffs, that crowd erupted.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, TJ's energy is special. He knows how to get a group to rally behind him. And I think that's a talent in itself.
Was there a game or moment this year? I know the playoffs obviously are a big thing, but like, is there a game or moment that really stands out to you as like, this was such a fun moment, like I'll never forget this?
This year?
Yeah.
Probably beating Boston, getting to go to Vegas. That moment.
The dunk in Charlotte, maybe?
I would say that the Boston one and Game 7 in New York. I would say those two were my two favorite games this year.
Do you feel that the in-season tournament was like a great idea, for the league to get more exposure on teams like the Pacers, but also be able to kind of give you, a simulation of what playoff games could be? I know you played in some playoff games, but a lot of players did not on this Pacers team.
Yeah, I thought it was actually a great idea. I wasn't too big of a fan of it at first, but once we started playing the games, I became a pretty big fan of the idea pretty quickly. It's a good idea. It's a great way to get more engagement in November and in December. Like being able to go to Vegas in the middle of the season was also super fun. Like that atmosphere playing in that arena was super cool. So it was a fun time. I think we'll have the right mindset going into our in-season tournament games next year to try and get back. Just because we lost in the championship of that one. So.
I do want to thank you for your time today, Aaron. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you about the season and just the future of this team. But you talked about trying to get home court advantage. I want to wrap it up here, just allowing you to talk about how incredible the fan base was this year on a nightly basis in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and maybe any message you want to give to the fans that are listening to this show.
I mean, the Pacer Nation is incredible. The fans are incredible. The arena, probably one of the loudest arenas I've ever played in. And you guys can see from our playoff games, we didn't lose a single home playoff game up until the Boston series, correct?
Yeah,
correct.
So I'd say that's also credit to the Pacer fans having our back and being loud. It's a tough environment to play in. So every single night, every single game, we need Pacer Nation there. You guys make our job easier.
Hey, Aaron, really appreciate you coming back on. It means a lot. And this fan base is fired up for next season because, what we're building off of, I mean, that's enough to really have a totally different outlook than years past. So thanks for battling night in, night out on both ends, doing all that dirty work that every team wishes they could have about 15 of you. So
yeah. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.